Good morning to you all. My name is Mohammed Sani Bello. I'll be your facilitator for AI Mastery, or should I say I am your facilitator for AI Mastery class, fellowship, sorry. Now today we'll be going over part 2 of, or should I say part 2. We did the first part last week, which is AI research and how you can use AI for history, STEM courses, and then even writing essays. Now the second part is advanced workflows and automation. Now, as usual, we'll follow a pattern of hook. We'll then do a learning session, and then we'll practice what we learned. We'll then apply what we learned, and then we'll unlock the next level. Now, at TaxSat, our mission is to empower individuals and organizations, and we currently have over 1,273 plus members registered. We have done and created over 20 plus projects, and we have been to about 157 plus cities across the country. Now, you can tag us on our social media handles on Facebook, X, and Instagram for the things you learned during this fellowship. We usually monitor those pages, and we give out freebies and a lot of things for free for the best engagements out there. So you can win branded swags and a lot of goodies out there. Now, the table of contents of what we're covering today is we'll first go over understanding what a workflow is in the first place. That's a system, or should I say, a thinking approach of a system. Yeah. So we'll do three examples of a workflow. We'll do a student research pipeline, a content creators publishing system, a personal knowledge management system, and then we'll show you how do you build your first workflow step by step eventually, and then reach a goal. Now we'll show you the tools you require, manual workflows, what we are automating, because we'll be automating some workflows out there, and then we'll go a little bit deep into how to build beginner-friendly automation tools. Now, of course, there's a lot of options out there, so we'll be focusing on the no-code automation platforms, AI integration tools, and practical workflow and building exercises. Now, I'll give you assignments also. You'll do advanced concepts when you're ready, conditional logics, multi-tools, chains, schedule automations, the compound effects. They'll be compounding. Now I'll show you with workflow mistakes you should avoid, the key takeaways, and then what will be next. Now imagine this. You voice recorded an idea while walking, just taking a stroll, maybe you're just jogging or something. By the time you sit down, that voice note has been automatically transcribed, summarized by AI, and added to your to-do list, with even a calendar reminder. You didn't touch your phone once after the initial recording. Now, this may sound like sci-fi, but it's not. It's actually automation. And you're about to learn how to build that today. Now, this workshop is for ambitious people who don't want to use AI tools, but want to chain them together into workflows. Now, to be frank with this model here, is a bit more advanced. You have to be thinking above the regular chatbot user. So you have to think of how you can make multiple AI agents, or should I say AI models, perform a simple task. Now, if you've ever thought, I do this repetitive task constantly, there must be a better way, I guarantee you this will be your answer. Now, understanding workflows, or should I say the system thinking approach. Now, a workflow is just a series of steps that happen automatically when triggered by something. So you basically tell a machine when this happens, then it automatically does this. Now the power is in connecting different tools so they talk to each other, and that's eliminating the manual work entirely. It's like setting up dominoes and then pushing the first one. Now the first one will trigger the second, the third, and then continuously it will keep on going till the last domino falls. Now here's the fundamental shift in thinking. Stop using tools individually, start thinking in systems. So stop imagining AI models as just a simple tool, but think or should I say, have a bigger picture of them being systems, or should I say, much more bigger systems that you tension together to actually perform the task you want. Now, most people use AI reactively. That's, I need to write something, let me open ChatGPT. I need to answer or know something, I'll just use ChatGPT. I want to generate an image, maybe I want to ideate something, I'll use ChatGPT. But power users don't actually use AI like that. Every time a power user has an idea, he wants an way he can automatically capture, process, and organize it without him having to lift a finger. Now that is someone who is thinking at a system level. Now the difference is between tools. Individual apps you use manually, and workflows, connected systems, and workflows are two separate things. Sorry. Now, unlike ChatGPT, which you only send a message forward and it returns something back, if you automate a pipeline, if you send a single message, that message triggers about 4 to 5 steps of other workflows that will happen before the final result comes back. Now, here's an analogy that's very good to understand. Imagine you are cooking dinner. Now, as someone who is thinking as a tool, or should I say the tool thinking person will be like, I need to chop vegetables, so let me just get a knife. That's the obvious way of doing that, right? Now, a person thinking as a systems level, that's someone who is trying to make a workflow. He'll be thinking, I cook dinner 5 times a week. Now, let me arrange my kitchen so that when I walk in, ingredients are pre-sorted already. Tools are within arm's reach, and cleanup is integrated into my cooking process. He already has a pipeline, or should I say a design of how he schedules or how he will perform the same task every single day. So he has eliminated the variable of him having to come back every single time again, or should I say doing everything manually over again. Now, the first approach isn't wrong actually, but the second approach creates a more efficient and standard way of approaching this, and that compounds over time, which eventually makes things much more easier. Now, workflow also has a formula. Now, we'll go by a trigger first. That's something that will trigger the action immediately, and then the real action itself, and then finally the outcome. That's the usual formula of whatever workflow you're trying to create. You need to have a trigger. What will set that activity, or should I say that particular thing you want done in motion? It needs to be, maybe, is it a timer? If a time reaches, maybe there's a time you set, an alarm clock is set. Immediately the time rings, it triggers an action. There has to be a trigger. And then what is the action itself? The action could be maybe take a picture, maybe call someone, maybe send a text message, schedule something on my calendar, order food for me. A lot of actions can be performed. Now, what is the outcome? The outcome is the result of that action you're expecting. Let's say, for instance, you have a pipeline that is supposed to trigger immediately 12 or maybe a 1 p.m. hits in the afternoon. You have already designed the workflow that at exactly 1 p.m. it triggers an action. And what's that action? The action is to open a mobile app, or maybe visit a website you usually use for ordering food, to order food to your doorstep. And what is the outcome? The outcome is you having to not do anything and then waiting for the delivery man to bring the food to your doorstep. That is the outcome you're looking for. Like I was saying, the trigger starts with the process. It could be a voice note, maybe an email received, a specific time of day, new file added to a folder. An action, what happens automatically. That's what the AI performs itself. And the outcome was the result, task added to the list, whatever it is. Now let's make this concrete. Workflow 1, the 3 example workflows I was stating earlier. The student research pipeline, this is specifically for students. Now, the manual way it was done before is you find something interesting, an article interesting online, you read it, you take notes manually, you try to remember and review notes later, but you'll definitely forget eventually. We're humans, by the way. Now, you'll forget where you save those articles. Give another variable for, should I say, a variable that's has to be factored in as for us humans actually. You waste time searching for it later. While it works, but you can see the repetitive motion there. Now the automated way, that's what we'll be talking about now. You save the article URL to a pocket. Maybe you can bookmark it in your browser. You can read it later when you are free. Now the trigger is new article saved. The first action 1, you use Zapier. Zapier, by the way, is an automation platform. It detects new save. It immediately detects that you have saved an article to your pocket or maybe a book, you have bookmarked it. It sends the URL to a ChatGPT API. An API is called application programming interface. Basically, it's a way of talking to a machine, but through the back side. Just imagine ChatGPT now, for instance. The regular user uses ChatGPT through the chat interface of a phone. But if you want more advanced features, that's direct access to the AI model itself, you need to get an API key. And this is usually used by developers or programmers for more advanced usage or maybe specialized usage that the mobile apps were not designed to actually perform. Now ChatGPT summarizes the article, that's the second action, into 3 bullet points. The third action is the summary is auto-posted to your Notion. Notion is a note-taking application also. And thus, it creates a new page, research notes. Now the page will be linked to the original URL you saved in your pocket or maybe bookmarked in your browser, which you can then you can reference back to that material also whenever you're in need. Now the outcome is you have a searchable, organized notes without manual work. You've already set up a pipeline that immediately you save an article, it automatically drafts the article, summarizes it, and saves it to your notes automatically. And with the source also, you can always come back to the original source and read it in full. Now the tools needed for this, there is Pocket, which is a free tool by the way. There is Zapier also. It offers a free tier, generous free tier. And then there is Notion. Notion is free completely. ChatGPT API access, well, that is a paid feature. You need to pay, but it's within the affordable range for light users. Now, the second workflow example is a content creator's publishing system. Imagine you're a content creator. You want to write blog post in Google Docs. Or should I say, you write the blog post in Google Docs first. Then you manually generate social media posts based on that content or blog you just written in Google Docs. Now you find or create images similar to those, because you can't just post a dry text and expect people to be engaged with it. You need to have some kind of media files people can associate with when they are reading your article. You then schedule the post across 3 separate platforms. It can be X, LinkedIn, or Facebook, whatever platforms you're actually using. Now, you can forget to track the engagement. I mean, the chaos of using multiple platforms itself is something else entirely. Now, the automated way, using automation, you just write the blog post in Google Docs, because that's obviously the most important thing, the original content you are writing. You set a trigger. The trigger is to move the document to ready to publish folder in your Google Drive folder or somewhere else maybe. Now the first action is AI extracts the key codes and generates 3 social media post variations. So the AI it basically takes the blocks and breaks it down, summarizes it into 3 different posts, and each specified for a specific type of social media platform. The second action is DALL-E, the AI generation platform we talked about and we used earlier on the courses, or should I say in the first phases of the fellowship. DALL-E generates images, right? So it will use those generated social media posts and generate similar images that will vibe with those posts so that they can sync together when posting. Now the second action is these posts are also scheduled. That is kind of giving a buffer zone or maybe a buffer time that they should be posted maybe 2 hours apart from one another. That can be done with social media schedulers, by the way. There are also a lot of them out there. Now the fourth action engagement metrics are auto-logged to your Google Sheets exactly weekly. Now, this is a little bit more advanced. You need to get API access to all of the platforms you're using, but it's usually very straightforward. So the engagement content is you basically be getting how many people actually watched your content, how many people engaged with your content, liked, maybe commented, how many followers you gained or lost within the week, or maybe within the time you posted or something. Now the outcome is you only have to write one single blog post. Now the single blog post you wrote has been repurposed into a lot of things, into multiple social media platforms format, images generated using AI, and then analytics being returned automatically. This can be done without you having to lift a finger. You just have to set up the system once and do everything. Or should I say everything will be done manually, or should I say automatically, sorry. Now the tools needed for that will be Google Docs, Zapier, or Make is an alternative to Zapier if you like Make better. There's ChatGPT API I was saying earlier, but remember it's a paid feature. There's Buffer, also an application that schedules social media posts, and then there's Google Sheets, basically an Excel alternative. Now the third workflow is personal knowledge management system. Now the manual way people used to do it before is you have ideas scattered across voice notes, random pages, text files. I usually do that also. And have random papers, pieces of ideas, not fully stitched together. No organization, and sometimes very hard to find anything. Now, good ideas get lost and forgotten a lot actually. Like those, because you haven't actually documented or maybe set a pattern of you can recognize and follow later on. Now, the automated way after, which you can set up based on this module, is a voice note recorded on your phone. The first action, that's the trigger by the way. Immediately you record a voice note on your phone, the first trigger takes place. It's a transcription service, can be an Otter AI or maybe Whisper. It converts your speech into text first. That's the only thing it does. It converts your raw audio file into a transcribed text. Very accurate one too. The second action, the AI reads the transcript. It extracts the main ideas from there and then generates a title for those. The third action is the AI categorizes the notes into work or personal, or maybe learning materials, or maybe even ideas too. The fourth action adds to appropriate Notion database with tags. Now, I don't want you to be thinking deeper about this because this is a little bit more advanced, but basically, it kind of categorizes the file into, there's this thing called tags on files. You usually give it a color coding, or maybe a way that you can categorize files between in a folder or maybe a shelf. That's basically what it does, but it uses the Notion application, not taking application I was telling you about. Now, the fifth action, it's every week AI compiles all ideas into a summary email and then sends it to you. And that summary email will give you a good understanding of what happened within the past week entirely. Now, the outcome for all of these trigger and actions is you never lose an idea again, and it keeps updating and saving everything eventually. So whenever you come back to get your idea, it's already there, solidified and ready to continue working with, without you having to worry about the structure, because AI can do all of that for you. Now, the tools needed for those will be a regular phone voice recorder, which all of mobile phones I believe have. Otter AI is completely free, or should I say they have a free, generous free tier. There's Zapier, the automation platform. There's IFTT. Though IFTT is more of a business-focused solution. There's Notion, by the way, the notes taking app, or Obsidian. Obsidian is an alternative. Personally, I like using Obsidian. I've been using it for years too. ChatGPT API, a paid service. Now, a workflow diagram showing voice notes, or should I say, transcription, AI categorization, and Notion with examples. Unfortunately, we don't have the screenshot here, but I would have shown you. But Based on that workflow alone, it will save you at least 3 to 4 hours of your timeline. Now, what I used for that specific workflow, because I don't have the screenshot here, but I used a voice recorder. I was even half asleep then. And I recorded the voice, put it through the pipeline. By morning, they have transcribed, titled, and filed it in Notion folder. Now, this workflow was built in 2 hours and saved countless ideas since. Now, building your first workflow. This is a step-by-step guide to build your first workflow. Now, let's build something simple but useful. Automatic meeting or lecture notes summary. Now, the goal for this is, after every meeting or lecture, automatically generate clean, organized notes without manual typing. Do you understand how important this could be? Imagine in your class, you have a voice recorder. Even if you haven't attended the class, you've missed the class, that voice recorder actively listens to the teacher and is transcribing whatever the teacher says in real time. And after the class, organizes those notes into a single structured format. And that is the most helpful use of AI I could possibly ever imagine. Now, the tools you require for this is, you need a recording application, of course. That's your normal phone's voice recorder could do. Otter AI, even Zoom's transcription service could also do that. You also need ChatGPT via API, or even manually also can do that. You need a Notes app, Notion, Obsidian, or maybe even Google Docs. Now, the manual workflow we're automating is, you come to a class, you record a lecture or a meeting, you listen back to those recordings, and then type the transcripts manually yourself. For instance, in a meeting, you have to type in the transcript of the meeting entirely manually. That's a very hefty task. You then organize and summarize the key points, which will take hours, if not a day or so, depending on how large the meeting or lecture is. You then save it somewhere, hopefully somewhere you remember, because it depends on how you organize your files, because a lot of times people organize their files without a proper structure, so you end up forgetting where you actually saved something important. Now, the automated workflow we're creating to solve that problem is, immediately, the main trigger is recording finishes. Yes, immediately you finish recording the voice. Now, the first action that will be taken is, the audio is auto-transcribed using Whisper or Otter AI immediately. That's converting the audio into raw text. Now, the second action is, the transcript sends, or should I say, the transcript that's generated is then being sent to ChatGPT with a prompt. And the prompt will look something like this. Summarize this transcript into 1, main topics discussed, 2, key action items, 3, important dates or deadlines mentioned, 4, questions to follow up on. Now, the third action is, the summary is auto-saved and dated in note, or should I say, summary auto-saves and to dated note in your system. Now, the outcome, a clean actionable notes within minutes of recording ending. You can copy to Notion, you can even export to Notion sometimes. If you're using Gemini, you usually find it to export to Google Docs immediately, which is very helpful. Now, how to build this as a beginner, or should I say for a beginner level person? The first option is fully automated. It requires API access and very technical also. Now, you use the API or make.com to connect. That's the recording application itself. Immediately after recording, you then transcribe that recording into raw text and then send it to ChatGPT through the API. Now, ChatGPT then, on the other hand, performs the task of that note using that earlier prompt I was talking about. It then creates a note, then sends it to a note-taking app. Now, the second option, which is semi-automated, easy, and we don't need any coding skills required for this. You use Otter AI to record and transcribe, which is very free, by the way. Now, Otter AI gives a generous free tier of almost 600 minutes of transcription per month. So, it definitely be within your range to do that. Now, you export the transcript text, paste it into ChatGPT with the saved prompt, or should I say this prompt specifically. Summarize this meeting/lecture transcript, format as explain the main topics, the key points, actionable items, and even questions. Copy the AI summary to your notes manually. Now, this isn't fully automated, but it will still save at least 80% of your time rather than the manually it was done before. Now, Otter AI can actually summarize audio at a speed of almost 200. How should I put this? It can transcribe almost 200 words within 30 seconds. That's how fast it is. So you can review the summary in less than 2 minutes for it to generate that, and then you can listen to the full hour, or should I say the full transcript entirely. Now, automation tools, the options you have out there, you don't need to master all of this. Just know that they exist. Now, I know this is somewhat vague or even partially a bit more advanced, but the point is you don't have to be an expert in this, but just know that it's possible. So if you know it's possible and you really are interested in this, you can spend a lot more time on this and then eventually build the system yourself, or even start building it for someone else, because you definitely earn a lot from it. Now, there's no-code automation platforms also. Now, one of those is Zapier.com. It's one of the easiest for beginners. Its generous free tier it gives you access to trigger 100 tasks each month for free. Now you can connect over 5,000 applications with Zapier, including WhatsApp and almost all applications you can think of. Now it's one of the best, if not the simplest, that you can use for the workflow as a beginner, by the way. There is Make.com. Formerly it was called Integrate. It's a little bit slightly more powerful, but a bit more complex also. At the same time, you need to be on the programming engineering side before you can efficiently use Make.com. It gives you 1,000 operations, unlike Zapier, a month for free, and it's actually one of the best for multi-step workflows. That's workflows that require steps after steps. Now, this is one of the best for when Zapier isn't powerful enough, or maybe it's, like I said, Zapier is beginner friendly. Make.com is a bit more advanced, so it depends on the kind of level of understanding you have. There's IFTT.com. It has a simpler interface, free tier. That's almost, they call it applets. They give you 2 applets each month, but then it has limits compared to the others. And based on my last knowledge of it, it's actually a much more business focused than more personal use. And it's one of the best for super simple automations. That's basic tasks you need AI to perform. AI integration tools. There's ChatGPT API, and you can find that by visiting platform.openai.com. Now, the pricing structure is paper use. That's you deposit funds into the AI model's API, or should I say your account rather, and then any usage in code using the API key will be charged using that balance you deposited into your account. Now it's required for automated AI processing, because you need the access to AI to perform those tasks. It's one of the best for workflows involving text analysis or generation. Now there's Zapier AI actions. These are built-in actions into Zapier. Now they give you pre-built AI steps. You don't need the API, in fact, sometimes. Though not every, but a lot of the applications inside don't need API access because they're already integrated into the platform. It's a bit slightly more expensive, and because it's more of a beginner-friendly tool, so to make it much more easier, they have to make it expensive. Now, it's one of the best for non-technical users wanting AI in workflows. Now, practical workflow building exercises. Let's build a workflow for a task you actually do repeatedly. Now, think about your daily routine. Do you take photos of notes, whiteboards that you later need to organize? That's after classes, or maybe a meeting, or maybe whatever task you perform. Now, do you save articles or videos to watch later? Okay. So, now do you take photos of notes or whiteboards that you later need to organize, maybe after a class or maybe a meeting? Now, do you save articles or videos to watch later? Now, this will eventually pile up because I personally do that also, guilty as charged. Now, do you have ideas throughout the day that you forget without recording? Or do you do weekly reviews of your tasks or goals? Now, this is your assignment. Based on this, identify one repetitive task that annoys you the most. Now, I want you to map the manual process. That's the step-by-step process that takes you to perform that specific task from beginning to the completion. What are all the steps you do currently? Design the automated version based on what you learned from this module. What could happen automatically? List the tools needed, be specific which applications. Based on what you learned here, I want you to list me the tools that will be needed for the automation to be run efficiently. I want you to build it. Start with semi-automated, or should I say semi-automated? That's not fully automated because automated is full advanced. If you can do full automation, attempt it. If you can't, semi-automation is good. Now, a good example of this is, let's say for instance, I have a task. I screenshot inspiration images on my phone. They pile up chaotically. I actually do that also. Now, the manual process, I take the screenshot, forget about it, my storage fills up eventually, and every time I went into the gallery, I will sift through the screenshots, but then feel it's very hard to delete the screenshots, as if I'm clinging onto the screenshots for some reason. I don't know why. Now, automated version will be the screenshot taken, it auto-uploads to Google Drive. AI describes the content, describe the content files with descriptive names and tags. Now, the tools needed for that is basic phone automation, usually on iOS or maybe your Tasker on Android. Just tell it to do that. Google Drive for the storage itself, ChatGPT API for image description, and whatever else. Now, build it by auto-uploading screenshots to one folder easy, then add AI tagging later if you can. Advanced AI concepts when you're ready. Now, the conditional logic. Workflows can branch. If AI summary contains keywords like urgent, send notification immediately. Otherwise, add them to a weekly digest. Now, this is an example of a conditional logic. You're telling the AI, whenever an AI or a summary, or should I say, you've given it a content to work on, and the summary contains keywords like urgent, notification immediately, and weekly, and those 2 times, for instance, it should send notifications immediately to you. Now, if it doesn't have those keywords, it should add them to a weekly digest and then send it to you at the end of the week. Now, the multi-tool chains, a good example of this is a complex of flow connecting 5 GPU tools together. An example of this is you receive an email, AI categorizes what type of email it is. It puts high priority emails first, which can then be even forwarded to your Slack as a notification. Some can even be added to your calendar automatically as a block. And the low priority messages or emails goes to the weekly review document because they don't need immediate attention. Oh, and by the way, Google Gmail also does that by default. If you notice in your Gmail application, web or mobile, there's kind of a promotions folder, your main inbox, and then there's a socials folder, I believe, or spam sometimes here. So it automatically categorizes the emails coming into you. If it's an advertisement, it pushes to the promotions folder. If it's an invite request or something, it pushes to that side. And the schedule automations, workflows that run on timers. Say for instance, you create a workflow that runs every Sunday at 6 p.m. You should compile all of the week's tasks you assessed, analyze the completion rate, generate next week's priorities. So it uses the task you have for the past week, understands the task you haven't performed within the past week and then fits them into your next week's schedules. Now, the compound effect here is individual workflows save small amount of time, but 10 workflows saving 10 minutes each. That's about 100 minutes saved daily. Now, imagine 10 hours per week. We are saving at least 10 hours per week every week, which roughly rounds up to our 40 hours per month. That's a full week's worth of time reclaimed by just using AI automation software. Now, the workflow mistake to avoid, one of the first ones is over-automating too soon. Start with workflows that save at least 5 minutes per occurrence and happen frequently. Don't try to automate something you do once a month, maybe once in 6 months, and try to automate everything at the same time. It'll eventually break because you don't fully understand the steps needed and then how you can approach them yourself. The second mistake is building brittle systems. If your workflow breaks when one app updates, then it's too complex. You need to build in a redundancy or simpler alternatives to make sure that whenever one task fails, there's an alternative to the task that performs in the background. Just because one fails doesn't mean the pipeline entirely stops. The third mistake is forgetting to maintain. Now, a lot of us engineers, by the way, do that. We build a software and then imagine it will be working efficiently and then stop updating it entirely. That's a big mistake, and when you're building automation workflows also, you should keep that in note. Workflows needs constant and occasional checks, because even the developers, or should I say the API providers you're using, the applications you're using, may eventually update the applications, and the features you are familiar with or used today may actually be working to the next day because they have been obsolete or maybe upgraded to a higher version that the platform you're using, or should I say the version you were using before, can no longer accommodate. Now, the fourth mistake is automation for automation's sake. Now, the full cool factor isn't enough, actually. You need to ask yourself, does this actually save me meaningful time or mental energy? Because if you create a pipeline, an AI pipeline that actually performs the work, but then just because it's cool doesn't mean it's actually necessary for your work, for your type of work. So you need to make sure that whatever you're trying to automate actually saves you time. There's actually a good reason for that, because if there isn't, you're just as good as the next guy using AI for just chatting. Now, the key takeaways for this workshop specifically is workflows transform individual AI tools into powerful automated systems that works for you 24/7. You don't sleep, they don't get tired, they don't complain. You just give them access, they do the work. Start with simple automations. Semi-manual is fine. You don't have to go full automated. Focus on repetitive tasks that genuinely annoy you and gradually build complexity over time. The more you're understanding, the more you're increasing its complexity. Now, the goal isn't to automate everything. Keep this in note. It's to reclaim the time and mental energy for work that actually matters, which is one of the importance of, I think one of the most important things about AI nowadays is this specifically. You don't have to rely on mega tasks that AI can take care of, because that's a waste of your time. As a person who knows AI can do that stuff, you shouldn't spend your time doing that. Instead, find something that AI cannot do, or maybe needs your collaboration to do, and then be good at that, because that's where the next wave of jobs will be coming from. Now, even one solid workflow can save hours weekly, if done right. A suite of them, if you have multiple AI models, or AI automation softwares, or automated chain of platforms connected together, and you'll feel like you're actually unlocking a secret level of productivity, because you'll be doing less tasks and achieving much more better result. Now, what's next? You've now mastered AI integration. That's 6A before, and then this current 6B. But with great power, remember, comes great responsibility. And seriously, Workshop 7 confronts the ethical questions you must grapple with. When AI help versus AI is cheating. As shall I say, at what level will you say AI is helping, or then AI is helping you cheat, for instance? How do you spot and counteract biases? AI gives biases. You should know that. We've discussed that at the previous, one of the first sessions we did. And then, what are your responsibilities as someone who was an AI user? You need to figure out the responsibilities on your head and make sure your AI powers are used wisely. Thank you very much. And this is the end of this session.